Welcome back to another episode of Life's Ambition Podcast. Today we are joined by someone who had goals and accomplished them. He's going to share his input on his life journey through starting his own business to being an owner of Chiropractic One. Without further ado, Brett Penager. Brett, how are we doing today, man?
Drew, fantastic. As my dad would say, fantabulous. My dad would make up a lot of words, and that's kind of where I'm at today. Super excited to be here, and what an honor. What an honor, brother.
So, funny thing about like your dad making up words. My dad, he would try, me and my brother, we were learning Spanish in high school, and one of my dad's biggest things is he would always add O or ah after everything. And so he'd be like, let's go to the store and get burgers O. And that's like his version of speaking Spanish. And I was like, oh gosh.
Oh, I love the originality, man. That's where genius and brilliance reside. So I love
100%. It's stuck around in our family to obviously continue on that like little pun and joke. So that's great. And I think it's great that your dad does that as well. I think it's so cool to be able to speak with you here today because I think the healthcare industry is just so big and so vast, and you've had such a cool journey to get there. And I love to kind of understand, how did you come, like you were the USA wrestling coach, and then like how did you even get there, and how did you even get into the healthcare industry?
Oh man. Well, I tell you, what a powerful question, Drew. Honestly, it started in a sauna.
Those are the best types of conversations.
I'm telling you, as crazy as it sounds, I'm not kidding. My best friend, Dr. Ben Lerner, he's one of the world's greatest chiropractors. Before he was a chiropractor, we were young and we were both in wrestling and in football in high school. And it was my sophomore year, his freshman year, and we were in a sauna losing weight for wrestling. And I don't know, man, we just had this idea that somehow, some way, we were meant to work together and change the world in a magnificent way. We had no idea what that would be. We didn't know how we were going to do it. We just knew that we were brothers from other mothers. And we're like, you know
Nice.
what? I don't know what it's going to be, but one day we're going to do something and change the world. He ended up going on and becoming a chiropractor, again, one of the best in the world. I
Awesome.
ended up getting involved in coaching, which I said I'd never do. And in that process, ended up coaching in college and coaching at the U.S. Olympic Training Center, being part of the 96 Olympic Games and the World Championships in 95.
That is
and in
awesome.
and then brought Ben in to be our team chiropractor. And so we then started working together from there as a long-term friendship. And then fast forward to 2000, we were partying in 1999 like the Prince song. It was for real, right? And everybody's worried about Y2K and if everything's going to collapse. And I went down to Florida, and during the party, he's like, you know what? I think I found a way that we can finally work together. And so he had a practice management company with a partner of his in chiropractic. And I decided to jump on board and start working with him. And that's how I got involved in healthcare and in chiropractic, post my coaching career at the Olympic Training Center.
Wow. And you said you did want to be a coach. How comes that? Or why is that?
Sure. Well, in 1977, going back a little bit, I got a few years on you, not too many, but just a few. In 1977, I was in class and I got a chance to watch this video called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And in it, he goes, why do people become who they become? And at the very end of it, he goes, you become what you think about all of the time. I remember I was in seventh grade at that time, sixth grade. And I'm like, you become what you think about. I'm like, I'm going to become a girl? And I'm like, no, that can't be the case. And I'm like, well, if I can become anything that I want to do three things. I want to own my own business. I want to serve millions of people, and I want to make a ridiculous amount of money as a result of it. So from there, I knew I wanted to do those three things. Coaching for me did not seem like it was going to be a route for that. Because one, you're spending a lot of time not building a business. You're serving your athletes for sure, typically you're not making a ridiculous amount of money. And so
Oh, gosh, no.
it didn't fit that hand in glove that I got from The Strangest Secret back in 1977.
Yeah. Unless you're like Nick Saban, I think he was making like 17 million or something at Alabama, being the football coach there.
Well, Drew, there's a lot of money to be made in coaching, just not in coaching wrestling. Wrestling, now it's a little bit different, but with RAF, Real American Freestyle and everything else with the NIL deals that athletes can have coming into college. But, when I was coming up in the 80s and 90s, wrestling coaches and athletes did not make a lot of money. And most of the time, including our Olympic athletes, had to work in addition to training just to make enough
Wow.
money to compete. So different time frame. So at that time, coaches didn't make money, and especially in wrestling. Football, always.
I mean, I think wrestling is such a cool sport. My uncle did it growing up, and there's team play, but there's also an individualistic aspect where it's if you want to compete at the highest level, that's on you. There's no one else that's going to prevent that's going to like step in your way or like, oh, my teammate dropped the ball here or anything like that. It is really totally up to you. And was that what drew you to the sport the most, is that individualistic aspect, but you still have the camaraderie in a team?
It is. Wrestling is an individual sport. You can't do it alone, meaning that you have to compete against someone else and you have to practice with someone else. So it takes a village in order to create a good athlete, no matter what the sport is. What drew me to it was, growing up, I'm not that tall and I'm not really that big. I'm about 5'4". And when I was younger, I was about 100 pounds soaking wet when I got involved in wrestling in seventh grade. And so I love football, but I'm going against guys who are 50, 70 pounds, some cases 100 pounds more than me, and they're
Oh, they
crushing,
breed them differently in that sport. They
right?
breed them differently.
Right? Wrestling was something that attracted me because one, I could control the outcome. It was up to me. And two, I love the controlled violence of it and the strategy that had to go into how do I compete and beat another human being, and it's legal versus getting in fights at school, and then you get in trouble and
That's an
detention.
awesome. That's awesome.
I'm like, man, it doesn't get any better, including being able to watch some of my all-time favorites, Jimmy Superfly Snuka jumping from the rings at the top, in the rings, even though that wasn't what it was. That's what I thought going into it.
So there was a dream for you to become a WWE superstar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I was younger, I loved it. Back before it was WWE and then WWF, they had wrestling was regionalized. So I used to watch it on Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS, Ted Turner's
Nice.
network. And anyway, fell in love with it then, and now it is what it is today. But yeah, I loved everything about it until I realized that's not what I was going to be doing. And I'm like, so no ropes? And they're like, no, Brett, we're going against another person. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I fell in love with it.
I
So,
can't bring a chair over my head and just smash it. Well,
exactly.
I gotta ask is, so like what school did you coach at? And then who approached you about doing the USA training program?
You bet. So I competed at the University of Wisconsin in Madison in the Big Ten, big time. And after I graduated, I had a really solid career there. After I
Congrats.
graduated, I then started coaching at UW Stevens Point with Marty Loy. And Marty was a head coach at the time. And I took the opportunity because I was failing in business. I had graduated from college, and then like, okay, good. Now I'm going to be this entrepreneur that I set up in 1977. And I failed spectacularly. I got evicted
Oh,
from home. I couldn't, afford anymore. I had a car repossessed. I had to move back home before it was normal.
holy cow.
And I was sitting there, and I get a phone call from Marty Loy, and he goes, "Hey, what are you up to?" I'm like, "Not too much, man." And he goes, "Well, I think you'd be a really good fit for our program, and I'm looking for an assistant coach. And I'm like, yeah, well, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, I don't want to coach in wrestling, and thanks for the offer. It was a Division III school. Until I get off the phone and I start walking away, and my mom goes, "Hey, who was that?" And again, I'm living back home. Abysmal failure. And she goes, "Who was that?" And I go, "Oh, it was Marty Lloyd." And she goes, "Well, what did he call for?" And I told her he was offering me a position to become the assistant coach. And she goes, "What did you say?" I said, "No." And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, Mom, I want to own my own business and I want to make a ridiculous amount of money and I can't do that in coaching." And she goes, "Well, let's see, right now you're not making any money, and what they're going to pay you is it was $10,000 at the time. That's $10,000 more than you're making right now, and your business was not working. So you might want to reconsider." And I'm like, "True that.
You
Okay."
got me there.
I called him up. I'm like, "I'm in."
That is awesome.
Got involved in coaching. So we had a fantastic run for 3 years. We built a phenomenal program. So many statistics I could throw. I'm not going to right now. But
No,
anyway,
all
then I get
good.
a call from my assistant wrestling coach in college at Madison, Mitch Hall. Mitch had taken a position as the national teams director at USA Wrestling. And because of all of our connections to Wisconsin, Mitch talked to Marty, and he thought I'd be a great fit for a position they just opened called the
Nice.
National Coaches Education Program Coordinator. And that job was to design a coaches education program for all of the youth coaches, all the way up to our Olympic coaches in the United States through USA Wrestling. And Marty
Holy
told me
cow.
to give him a call, and I'm like, "What did he want?" And I get on the phone with with Mitch, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I have this position." And in short order, I decided to take it, and that's how I got involved and started to work with USA Wrestling from '93 to 2000.
Wow. Congrats. That must have been a really special opportunity to be able to create a program for literally everyone that they follow. That is awesome. That is absolutely
Oh,
awesome.
well, thanks, Drew. It was one of the greatest time periods of my life. I got a chance to be involved in the Olympic movement, at the Olympic Games, around the best athletes on the planet in the sport that I fell in love with. Just superstars that you would know their names today. You know, Tom Brands, Kenny Monday,
Yeah.
Dave Schultz, Boxcatcher, Bruce
Holy cow.
Baumgartner, Terry Brands. I mean, the list goes on and on. And wrestling is a small community that's really tight, and so to
Hmm.
get to hang out and know the best that we ever had, and in many cases still do, was just a job of a lifetime.
How do you like create a program for something so like as such a large entity? Like where do you start and how do you develop it? Because you eventually had those opportunities with starting your own business and doing the healthcare side of things with your buddy.
Yeah, you bet. So, um, what's interesting in the book that I wrote, "Larger Than Life: In Pursuit of Discovering Your Full Potential,"
Shout out,
one of
100%.
the very first things that I talk about, I have 7 principles in there that allows anyone to live into their full potential. And one of them is find somebody who's already done it. So, principle number one is get clear on what lights you up. And then principle number two is visualize yourself already there. And that's a big part of what I learned at the Olympic Training Center as an elite athlete. But the third one is find somebody who's already done it. That's the shortcut versus taking guidance or information from people who have good intentions, like, "Hey, I know here's what you can do," but they've never done it. And so what
Yeah.
I did in terms of learning not only how to coach, but then developing a program almost from scratch was I went to the best in the business and physiology and the mental training that was necessary and nutrition and strength training and technique, everything that was needed to create the best athletes in the world. And I just took from them, and then I took all of that knowledge, put it into a book called USA Wrestling's Coach's Guide to Excellence, published that, and then that became the manual for any coach to know exactly what to do to develop the best athletes possible at every level. And so what I
Yeah.
did, I just found the people who already knew how to do it. I could utilize some of the experience that I learned in the 3 years that I coached at USA Wrestling and built it from there.
I think that's great too, because I just think about even with anyone that's trying to pursue a career path is to talk with people that are in the field, especially like that are in it currently to really understand what is happening, where's it going, and how's it developing. And now with like the age of AI and all this stuff, everything is exploding. And so being able to talk with others and kind of create that manual, I think is really awesome. It shows the kind of character that you are, Brett, which is extremely well to hear. And so like how did this lead then to the conversation in the sauna? And then why, if that was so great, why take the chance of doing something different?
Well, because I never gave up my dreams. And my dream wasn't to be a coach. My dream was to own my own business, serve millions of people, and make a ridiculous amount of money. Right? And one of the things that I learned from wrestling is just resilience. And like, if you can think it, you can be it, and you have to put the work in to do it. But that dream was still unfulfilled. Along the way, while I was working at USA Wrestling and when I was at USA at Stevens Point, I would always look for opportunities to create businesses. And so I did that along the way. We started a wrestling camp deal, and that went pretty good, but it wasn't going to fit the triumvirate that I wanted. We also started a travel agency with a good friend of mine called the Rebate Travel Company, and that took off a lot, but then it collapsed. And so
Mm.
that didn't work. I got involved in Amway and a multi-level marketing company, and I did my best to make that work, but that didn't give me the results that I wanted on touching millions of people and a ridiculous amount of money. And then when the opportunity showed up with my best friend, Ben, I'm like, he's already successful. He was already a multimillionaire. He already had a successful business. I'm like, wow, now I have somebody who's already done it and I can work with him and we can take our talents together because he was full time. And so if I jumped in and I could put energy into building the company while he was taking care of patients, we had the opportunity to live our childhood dream. And that would be serving millions of people, making a ridiculous amount of money, and doing that through chiropractic.
It sounds like you've had a few struggles in the past, and I'd love to kind of understand because I think I think failure is a great thing to happen to people, and I think it kind of shows the character of who you are after it happens. And I'd love to understand what failure means to you.
You bet. So most people view failure as the opposite of success. And so if there's a visual, some people may see this, I'm not sure, but if not, if there's a visual, most look at failure on one end, success on the other, and they're in the middle. And so if they're moving towards success, they're moving away from failure. And so that's what they want. However, if they're moving towards failure, they're moving away from success, and that's not what they want. And so with that thought process, you want to avoid failure at all costs because you're getting further and further away from the success that you want. That's not how it works. It never works. I want you to tell me somebody who's never missed one question on any test in every grade that they've ever taken from kindergarten all the way through college.
I
It's
know no
impossible.
one. Yeah, no one.
Even if they're brilliant, they're going to miss a question. And so the reality is it always starts with the individual. It starts with you. It starts with me. And then you have to go through this thing called failure, which is learning so that you can then have the success. So using the test example, I take a math test, I get 98 out of 100. I missed one question that was worth 2 points. Okay, I didn't know how to do that. And so now if I retake the test and I learn that, now I can have 100% and now I'm successful. But you have to go through the failure in order to do it. when you understand it from that perspective, you stop being fearful of failure because you know it's on the way and not in the way. And so when you're met with it, you're like, well, isn't this interesting? I didn't expect this to happen. However, if I keep steady, I want to focus on what my goal and my intended outcome is, then I can eventually get it. I just have to keep moving. This is not final. Failure is not final, and it's just on the way to success.
And how did that mindset develop for you? Like when I think about failure for myself, I think about very much certain points in my life where it was extremely hard. I did not get to where I wanted to want to be, or I just wasn't happy with myself. But in the hardest of times, there's always been something good that comes out of it after. Uh, like an example for me is I played hockey most of my life. I had anger issues growing up, and it was probably the lowest point I was is I kicked a kid, I got suspended. I kept getting suspended in games. I just felt horrible with myself, like what's wrong? And then from that, I did some therapy, worked on myself, and now I'm able way better control. And I think I'm probably the best version of myself now. But if it wasn't for those things, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so that's the mindset I have constantly when failure comes up is it has to happen for XYZ reason later on.
Yeah.
How did your mindset develop?
Well, I tell you, I learned it from my parents, Drew. Um, my parents were what I'd say OGs of epic proportions.
Oh,
Uh,
geez, I love that term.
for real. They both African Americans, and they grew up in a time when civil rights was at its height, and where in the United States at that time, where there were many things that African Americans could not do just as a result of this color of our skin. And my parents are like, screw that. I know what you're saying has to be the case, but why? We're a human being. And so they put us in a position to not only learn that we were just the same as any other person, we had to do the work to excel. We had to use our brain in order to learn. We had to do all of those things. It wasn't just given to us. However, you're no different than anyone else. And in my dad's words, we as African Americans had to do twice as much as our counterparts in order to be considered equal. And in that process, what you start learning is not only is it possible, that it's probable as long as you continue to go past what stops everyone else. And so they put us in those positions a lot of times. And you do that enough, it's like building a muscle. If you keep weight training, your muscle is going to grow and get bigger. And for us, being in that environment really allowed us to go, oh, this isn't as bad as we otherwise thought. Oh, we can do things that other people didn't consider. And we ended up becoming an example for a lot of my white counterparts that I grew up with as, oh, you know what? They're not all of the things that I've heard that they are because I have an example in a family that they're just like me. And so that thought process of overcoming to become is something that I learned from my parents, that then I really learned in wrestling, I learned in athletics, I learned in school, and then just kept building that muscle so that I could continue forward, even in debilitating loss and pain.
Which is great because, I know you said earlier that when you got out of college, you tried to get into your own business and it failed. And I feel like that can really affect someone of, I had these hopes, dreams, and aspirations and kind of like, look what happened. And so the fact that you kind of kept grinding through and, eventually was able to touch millions of people and, make the money and stuff like that, I think is absolutely great. I just love to kind of understand is why did the other businesses work and or not work, and why did this one in chiropractic work? Was it the people you surrounded yourself with? Was it and yeah, let's start there.
Sure. No, it's a powerful question, Drew. Big time. The ones that didn't work for me, number one, I wasn't lit up by.
Hmm.
And in my
Like
book,
passionate about it?
yeah, I wasn't passionate
Gotcha.
about it, so it was a something to do. Like the first business I started was in a collection agency. It was softcore collection where they would send you letters and say, "Hey, pay up," type of deal, right? And I started selling that, wanting to make an income on the commissions. However, the worst part of it is I got into financial trouble right away. I was spending more than I was making, and as a result, I ended up getting letters from the very company that I was selling the product for to other companies.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, this is not going to work, right? Um, some of the other businesses that I started, a rebate travel company, I didn't have a partner who was, um, we started as a partnership and that didn't work out. That collapsed. He ended up, having some challenges on his side. And so there was a lot of things that make a business work. One of them is having a very clear picture of the outcome that you're seeking. Like, what are you doing this business for? Are you excited about the product or service that you're actually offering to benefit humanity? And that's to get lit up about what it is that you're doing. And then the other one is putting the structure together in order to have a successful business. And for me, that became business partners who could help me become accountable and keep each other accountable. And they had skill sets that I didn't. And so
Yeah.
my skill is in marketing and in leadership. Uh, their skills are in finance. Another one of my partners had a skill in organizational structure and delivering on our promise. So you put those skills together. We had a big vision that all human beings discover their full potential. We had accountability systems to make sure that we did what we said we were going to do. And we started with an outcome at the very beginning on what we were doing every single day until we reached it.
That is awesome. And how did you like, all right, I should start with, I've talked to a lot of like CEOs and other like business owners and stuff, and they talk a lot about kind of what you're saying of, hey, I'm really good at this, but I don't know these other aspects. Let's bring in people who know that. And ultimately it creates the wonderful business that they're in today. And I'd love to kind of ask is how did you grow from, let's say, one person to 10 people to 100 people and then 1,000? I think the scaling of an operation is always so cool to hear about because I feel like it is hard to tap into a market.
It is. Well, most businesses fail. Most businesses that start do not make it. Um, One of the things to do to actually not only be successful, but to then set your business up so that it can surpass you. One of the things that's really important is where are you starting? Meaning that when we started Cairo One Wellness Centers, which is the company that I'm a partner of, that we ended up building, that's a national brand now. When we started it, our first goal was 41 offices in Greater Chicago, and we were starting with 12 at that time. We had two organizations that came together, and so we began with the end in mind. Dr. Stephen Covey talks about that in the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. As an athlete, you start with, I want to be a state champion, or I want to be a national champion, or I want to be a world champion or Olympic champion. Now, what are all of the things backwards that I have to do? Because you're starting there. You're not going, man, I want to be a wrestler. I wonder how this works, how good I can be. You're starting with a goal at some point. And so for us, that's where we started. And then you're able to measure yourself all along the way. You're either getting closer to it or further away. And like an athlete, you then start making adjustments. And so you make adjustments so that you can then get a different result and keep it moving forward to then ultimately accomplish what it is that you can see clearly. Now, some people think, oh, so that means all I have to do is dream it and then I can get whatever I want. Well, that's the start. Then you got to put in the work. And that's one of the places, that's another principle that I have in my book, Discover discover your full potential, is you have to rise above the norm. You have to have the work ethic that a lot of people just will not put in to achieve that type of success. And for us, a 100-hour work week was not abnormal. However, going back to the very first principle, if you love what you're doing, get clear on what lights you up, you don't look at it as work. And I know you have that experience in your own life. Maybe it's in hockey, maybe it's in the podcast that you're doing. It's like, man, I can't wait to do this. This is going to be so cool. And you might be putting 8, 10 hours in it, but you're not even, they're like, where'd the time go, man? Because you love it.
100%. 100%. Like yeah, I think about it all the time of, it started with talking with my uncle and a few others of just like people that my parents knew and that I knew. And now eventually, like I get to talk to individuals like yourself and like Green Berets and just like all these different kind of folks that walk all sorts of kinds of life. And I'm forever grateful for it. And it's what gives me like energy and passion. Like, especially when, like for yourself, Brett, like you're super passionate about what you talk about in the healthcare chiropractic, like finding your purpose, especially what you write in your book, all that kind of stuff. Like that just gives me energy. And I hope it gives other people energy to pursue what they want to do. Because life is not life is short, but it is not short at the same time. And it's better to enjoy doing what you love than sitting around and wondering, wow, how did I, like you wake up and you're like 70 and how did I get here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I look at it. And, I'd love to kind of ask you is, do you have an example of, you talked about like mindset and all these different kind of things and pursuing all of like finding people that are like-minded to you. Can you provide an example with your guys' business where you guys had a challenge or something that was just out of the ordinary and how you guys kind of work together to get through that?
I'm laughing because I didn't know what question you were going to ask, but as soon as you ask it, I'm like, bing, I know exactly
No,
what.
all good.
Remember when I talked about failure is on the way?
Mm-hmm.
Failure is not final. And if your dream is strong enough, you'll go through that knowing that it's on the way because you still haven't hit the target. So we reached a point when we started in 2007 officially as Chiro One Wellness Centers. We started with, at that time, we had 13 offices. And we
Wow.
set our goal to dominate the greater Chicago area, 41 offices. And along the way, as we were going towards that, we brought on some other partners and we opened up in Kentucky. And then we opened up down in Dallas, Texas to see if our systems could work and we could continue to grow. Well, in short order, we grew too fast. And
Oh,
so
there's a thing of growing too fast. Okay.
there's a growing too fast. We grew so fast, we got a little bit ahead of our skis. And so our financial modeling started collapsing because our legacy clinics in Illinois were doing really well, but our newer clinics in Kentucky and Dallas weren't keeping pace with what we had expected and predicated on the business model. And so in short order, all of a sudden, financially, we started to collapse. And I'll never forget it. This was in 2014 when this happened. And so we took out a loan to still fund the business. And then we got called on that note and we didn't have the money to do it. And so now we're either going to forfeit the entire business or we're going to figure out how to make this thing work. Our
Wow.
vision was so big that we're like, okay, here's what we have to do. We brought all of the partners together. There were 11 of us at that time. And we decided to shut down our Kentucky market. We shut down our Dallas market. We kept our most profitable clinics in Illinois and Chicago.
Yeah.
There were 41 of them. And then we put our heads down and we go, we know what to do. Let's learn from our mistakes. And we're going to rebuild this thing. Like back in the 70s, there was a show called The $6 Million Man, right? And it was bigger, stronger, and better, And that's what we did. We put our heads down. We corrected the mistakes that we had made. And we built it bigger, stronger, better. so that we could then fast forward almost 4 years later, go into the private equity world and continue to grow. And we ended up becoming the first organization in chiropractic history, in the history of the profession, that then commanded a 9-figure valuation and transaction. That's over.
Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. But I remember that point when we were at that precipice of this whole thing is either going to work or it's going to fail. That's where you're like, this is on the way, fellas. We are not giving up because there's too many people's lives that are at stake if we fail, and we will
Yeah.
not fail.
And how many clinics would like, so I should say you have 41 clinics in Chicago. How many people are at each clinic, would you say?
Um, it depends on the clinic, but typically anywhere on a low end of three up to five.
Oh, so
Five.
you're when you talk about like there's a lot of lives at stake here, like people's lives in their career. It's 120 to 200 people right there.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that's a lot of pressure. Like how do you handle that kind of stress? Like I think about I'm like, oh gosh, I got like one assignment. I got to do this. I got to crank it out.
Well, remember the muscle you're talking about building, going through
Yeah.
adversity? When you know it's going to happen, when it shows up, you don't go crazy. You're like, okay, now what do we do? And so we had the benefit of having a lot of brilliance in that room that got us there that could then go, hey, listen, we are smart enough to have done something that is extraordinarily rare to begin with. We just have to go back to the basics of what got us there in order to continue moving this forward. We know what we're doing. We know that we're capable. We know that it's possible. And so from there, it's kind of a mastermind, if you want to call it, where we then started leaning in. If anybody had doubt, we listened to it out. And we're like, okay, so what's your challenge? Well, what if this happens? What if that? And then we put it all out. And a lot
Hmm.
of time, in fear, false evidences appearing real, they're not real. And so when you lay it out and when you remove the emotion from scarcity into prosperity, you're able to start seeing answers that otherwise fear will shield you from because you can't see anything other than this isn't going to work. I'm going to fail. It's all over. It's like, well, what if I just remove that and I look at what I can do? And so that type of a thought process is what we ended up utilizing in order to get over that. And let
Yeah.
me tell you, we grew up, and then every business has a cycle where it goes up, plateaus, falls, and then it goes back up if you stay steady.
Hmm. Gotcha. It's just weathering out the storm then is what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I got a few questions for you. Was the chiropractic world just a total learning curve? Because you're like, you have the marketing side and the business mindset. Did you have to learn the chiropractic world itself to really understand how are we going to grow this thing?
Yes. And
Your
Napoleon
wrestling
Hill.
background, I'm sure, also was great for like figuring out muscles, like working with rehab. Sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Yeah, 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 it was. Um, in Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, he basically, if you don't know a lot about it, and I'm just going to share it for the listeners, basically, he was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, the steel baron at the turn of the century, to learn from 200 of the most prosperous and successful people on planet Earth at that time. From that, what he wanted was to take that knowledge and put it into a book. What did he find that was common among all of these people? And one of the principles that he found that created extraordinary success that he then put into the book, Think and Grow Rich, was called uh, not only definiteness of purpose, meaning they were very clear on what they were doing, but specialized skill set, meaning that they learned in steel everything that you could know about steel, or they learned in, like Henry Ford, everything about automobile manufacturing, or from presidents. Okay, everything about the politics. So you get really specialized in one area. In chiropractic, I got really specialized in understanding the history of it, everything about it, how it works. I was a patient, so I understood its benefit and value. And
Yeah.
then how do I articulate that from a marketing side to a public on what chiropractic is, which there was a lot of confusion, and today there's still some, so that they could make a choice that they otherwise didn't even know was a choice. And so a lot of specialized knowledge, a lot of growth and development and learning something that's very singular and maximizing that to people in a way to understand it that was relatable to them and not so ethereally crazy that they couldn't understand it.
And does that lesson go the same way for bringing on new partners and new people? Is when they have that specialized understanding of what you guys may need to kind of help grow? Is that when you guys are like, all right, we go from 3 partners to 6 and then 11 and so on and so forth?
Um, yes and no. We ended up bringing on additional partners who had skill sets that we didn't. Um, we we had a true unicorn, meaning, and we still do, meaning most partnerships with 2 people collapse within 7 to 10 years if they last that long.
Mm,
So we didn't bring on partners just because we needed more to do it. We brought on partners because they brought something that we didn't have. We recognized it, they recognized it, and we could work in unison with it. Um, I wouldn't say we got lucky because we did a lot of work to understand communication with each other. That sometimes you're going to have a good day, sometimes you're going to have a bad. To stay in the conversation all the way through when somebody was challenged, whether it be with their accountability or their specialized skill set that we needed them to do. And then ultimately holding them all along the way. Hey, do you need help? And you get to a point where the best thing to do is ask for it when you need it versus, oh, I got it. Yeah, I
yeah.
do. Great. Well, we got your back. You know, one of the things I love about the SEAL team is in the military, they have each other's back no matter what. And that's the type of bond that we were able to create. I've seen it in teams, athletically, and that's what we created as a partnership in business. No matter what, we got you.
And I think when you have a really strong foundation of people, that only just trickles down from there to everyone else. And so then you
Yeah.
create this really great workplace for everyone to be involved in, not just the top, but also the chiropractics themselves working on the bottom. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. That is very cool. And I kind of it's your story's just been so great, like listening to and like your mindset about everything. And I love to kind of like pinpoint to your book that you wrote and published. And does it all stem for those 7 lessons just throughout your entire career and what you've learned to make a business successful?
Absolutely. Larger Than Life in Pursuit of Discovering Your Full Potential was written in honor of all of those who have poured into me, because I'm not here without one, a lot of failure, but a lot of people who picked my butt up and they helped me. They're like, hey, you can do this. Hey, here's what you need to do. Hey, I believe in you. Whether it be my mother, my father, my good friend, Dr. Ben, my partners, my wife, my uh, colleagues. And so it was written so that you could distill that any person, if they wanted to go down this route of discovering their full potential, what would they have to do? One of the things that I learned at a very young age, going all the way back to when I was a child and starting in wrestling and everything else, was that excellence is not something you either have or you don't. That our creator one day goes, Drew, you are going to be the second coming, and everybody else born on the same day as you, good luck. That's not how it works. We are all gifted and anointed in our own ways. It's learnable. It's
Yeah.
learnable. So, from that standpoint, some people get excited about going through the process of learning what's necessary to be great. Others, with even more talent more intelligence, more ability, more backing, they capitulate. And the question is why? And what you find out when you study it again and again and again, it's the 6 inches between our ears. How we learn how to think and control this magnificent computer called our brain. How we control our emotions, as you talked about. You had anger issues. You learned how to not only deal with it, but then how to overcome it. Some people stay stuck there. And so if it's learnable, then you can then access that no matter where you go to get anything that you want because someone has probably already done it. And if they have it, at least hit this really high level and then surpass it, like an Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Screw the moon, man. Let's go to Mars. Mars? Why not?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. How hard was it to write the book itself?
um, well,
Did the ideas flow to you, or does it like one chapter at a time?
one chapter at a time. I didn't start off knowing exactly how I was going to do it. Let me share something that's applicable to anyone listening as it pertains to success. When you're clear on your why, the how to will figure itself out. Most of us get clear on a why. Man, I want to be X, or I want to accomplish this, or I want to do that. And then we get stuck in the, yeah, but how do I do that? You don't need to know how. That will figure itself out. And for me, the why was big enough, called I really want to honor those who have honored me. And I want to give away what I've learned so that I can support other people in discovering their full potential. And to do that, one of the best ways is to write a book. And so I didn't know how. I have written a book already for USA Wrestling, USA Wrestling's Coach's Guide to Excellence, but I had a ton of help. I didn't have to do that all by myself. In this one, I ended up seeking people who have already done it. And so I spoke with Ona Brown, who is Les Brown, one of the greatest motivational speakers of all time, daughter. We worked together early, and she taught me how to go through the process of writing the book. And then she connected me to a publisher so that I could then go through the process of what publishing looks like. And so this is everything that we're talking about today. One, the why is I want to put together in a text form something that I can leave behind for others to learn from. I found somebody who already done it, and that's Ona Brown and my publisher, Reaching While Teaching. And from that side, I was then able to go through the process with her guidance and then putting in the work of doing it. And it took about a little over a year from inception to actually being published and on Amazon.
Wow. A year, that's really good though, all things considered. I hear sometimes it takes people like 10 years to do it. So that's awesome, and congrats to you. And I'd love to kind of leave you with two questions here is one, what is probably the biggest piece of advice throughout everything that you've kind of gone through, all the experiences, troubles, the successes, that you would just give to someone that's trying to figure out what they want to do in life?
Our Creator, however you assign that, our Creator has put within you something that you're the only person in the world that has. And all you have to do, and it's easier said than done, but all you have to do is listen. Go there. Go within. And you've known it at some point in your life. You found something that triggered you that went, I love this. Whether it be skiing or writing or mathematics or art or teaching or biking, or it doesn't matter. Like you're like, I love this. I feel like I'm meant to do that. And then along the way, it gets beat out of us by our peers or our parent or groups that decide, no, you're not going to be good at that, and you shouldn't do that. Here's what you should do. If you're ever stuck, just go to what your heart speaks to you, what your spirit is telling you that you're here for, and you can find it because it's visible. And if we just be still and go back there, sometimes it takes a lot of courage to go, okay, I know I've been going down this route to be a teacher, but what I really want to do is be in politics. I know I've gone down this route and I got a good job, but what I really want to do is be a musician. Whatever it is, if you tie onto that, you cannot and will not fail because you start living your passion. You start living your love. And in the process, you start attracting all of the things that are going to support that, the people, the knowledge, the information, the occurrences, the lucky situations seemingly come up miraculously because you're plugged in now on what you're here for that no one else can do. That's what I would say.
That's amazing advice. And, I'd love to leave you with this last question is, with all the success you've had and with all the things you're doing, what do you look forward to next? Like, you've reached your dreams, you've reached your goals. What do you look forward to now?
Sure. Well, first of all, I haven't reached all of my dreams and goals. So I've
Sweet.
done a lot of really cool things. I'm not correcting you. I'm just saying part of it. I learned this at a Tony Robbins seminar years ago. Set goals that go past your lifetime while you're alive. That way, no matter when, our Heavenly Father calls us home and we're not here anymore, we're still working, we're still prospering on a daily basis up until the time we take our last breath because we're still working for something. And in my case, I have goals that are set for 200 years into the future. That there's no way I'm going to be alive to do that. But that means every day that I'm alive here, I can continue to move that forward to serve people. My big goal right now is to support 5,000 entrepreneurs. And in supporting them and taking their gifts to the world, such as you, they're going to be measured in the impact that they have on humanity by having a combined net worth of $100 trillion. And,
Wow.
Right now, I don't know if there's $100 trillion on the whole planet. However, as time progresses, we have more people and the value of money increases, then within 40, 50 years, that's a possibility. And so for me, I'm really intent on supporting the visionaries and the dreamers in the world and taking their gifts and their goals and their special talents that only they have to the planet for our benefit. And they win, we win, and humanity wins. So I got a lot of work to do, man. Feel like I'm just getting started, Drew.
Which is great then that you have those goals for the future and something that lives past yourself. And that's what I think about with this show is I want something that's greater than me, that's going to impact millions of people and it's going to live way out past me. I mean, there's always going to be these professions out there in the world. Obviously, it's probably going to change over time, but as long as we continue to keep having conversations, especially like this one, I think it's going to be all for the better. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show today, Brett. And I can't congratulate you enough for all the success you've had.
Hey, Drew, thank you. And thank you for what you're bringing to the world that is specially anointed to Drew. All right. So I really appreciate the opportunity. You are serving the world in a magnificent way that's taking wings in ways that you can't even measure, other than knowing that you're doing your best to be your best so that we all get a chance to benefit from it. So keep up the great work, brother.
Thanks, Brett. Hey, everyone. Want to take a quick second and say thank you to whoever listened to the episode today. I really do appreciate it and it means a lot. If you did like the episode, make sure to give it a like or 5-star rating depending on what platform you are listening to. And if you really want to support the show, check out our website or Patreon link below. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.